This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we've got 3 new releases to discuss. We're going to kick off with Luke Hemsorth in Gunner. Then we have Voice of Shadows and Devil's Night. Our short shot is Out of Body, and our DTV throwback is Mumbai Saga. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Gunner. Ex-Marine Lee Gunner returns home to try and bond with his sons, taking them and his brother on a camping trip. However, they unwittingly uncover a drugs lab out in the forest, and Lee's kids are taken hostage by troubled gang leader Dobbs Riker. Okay. Oh yeah, Morgan Freeman's in this. Probably got paid for about a day's work. Do you reckon, guys? About a day, maybe a bit more.
Couple, considering
that Stallone got paid for a day's work when he did Armor, his latest one that went straight to Prime. I reckon most of Freeman's stuff was probably wrapped up in a day. I wouldn't be surprised. I semi-like this one. Okay, there are things I did like. One of them being Luke Hemsworth. I think he's fine in this. I think he's quite suited to the material. Actually, I think he's a bit better than the material, to be quite honest. Also good to see Michael Shannon Jenkins in this as Dobbs. Last seen in Undisputed 3, which was the one.
Paper Tigers.
And Paper Tigers, of course, yeah. Undisputed 3 is where he played Turbo. It's a shame that one never got a proper DVD release in this country. It ended up as part of a box set, I think, and it went straight to streaming, but never mind. My issues really with this are the script. Okay. At times, the script is actually not too bad. Like when he is actually bonding with his kids, especially his older son, who's a bit wayward and stuff. And, I thought that stuff was actually pretty decent. But there's just so many dead ends in this. Like, for example, the prologue. Can either of you understand a reason for that prologue, or even understand it?
You mean the bit in the bar?
No, before that. Before that, when you have the bikers and their SUV go and dump a body somewhere with absolutely zero context or anything, or any sign of any actual characters or anything. It's just this weird little scene.
Yeah.
That was Dobbs getting rid of the problem, wasn't it? Because he goes to the prison.
Yeah, but they didn't need to show us.
They didn't need it. No, it's not necessary. No.
Because he tells his boss that he sold.
I'm with you.
Yeah. The other bit which I found, just it had me looking at the screen, just going, why? Is when Luke Hemsworth ends up going to this strip club, following a lead or whatever he's doing. And the film spends like a whole minute of screen time just watching the stripper do her pole dance. And I'm looking at this thinking, if she doesn't become a main character all of a sudden, or a sidekick, or have some information to pass on, why the fuck are we watching her?
Tits.
Well, yeah, I know the real, the reason.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, but why, from a film point of view, from a story point of view, would you want this? She should be in the background somewhere while a conversation or a fight's going on. Not the main focus with this really horrible sort of soft, sort of pop song going on. Anyway, Steve, what did you make of Gunner?
Yeah, similar reservations to you, to be fair. I thought Hemsworth was great. Morgan Freeman, to be fair, it's something he could do in his sleep. There's no issues there. One thing that I really didn't like was in the action scenes, the song choices.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit. It was, I don't know, it was like trying to make light of the violence in a way. And it just
It's that
didn't
thing
work.
of like trying to juxtapose a action scene with some sort of weird, wacky song sort of thing. You know, yeah. It's like, oh, we're going to pair this up with, I don't know, sort of M people or something. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
it was very, that really threw me in it. That not put me off, but it took me out of it really. It just wasn't necessary. And also, I mean, some of it's a little bit overblown, you know, where it says, "Oh yeah, I'll meet you," to his brother, "I'll meet you at the campsite or whatever, the camping spot."
Yeah.
Yeah,
How are
that's
you
a
going to get there? It's
site.
4 hours away.
Yeah,
I'm going to jump out of an airplane.
yeah, with my son strapped to me. He's like, "What?" Yeah, come on, lad, just drop me off. You know, it'll cost you about $6,000 in aviation fuel or something. That
Probably.
like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought the action was done well. Performances were good. You know, and apart from that bloody CIA bloke, he's an absolute arsehole in it.
Oh. One thing you mentioned the CIA guy or DEA agent, I think he was.
Yeah, it's
but
idea.
There's an earlier scene after the bar fight, and the sheriff comes to see him with his deputy, and the deputy was a cunt.
Yeah, okay.
But it was really, really telling that they put him in there, you know, this guy, because he's the sort of guy, you know, who wants to throw his badge around. He wants to throw his weight around, you know, show off his, you know, you shall respect my authority kind of guy. And whereas the sheriff was like this really easygoing guy, you know, look, I've known this guy for donkeys, you know, back down sort of thing. Yeah. And I thought that was a really good, you know, it's a one and done scene sort of thing, but it spoke volumes. You know, you could see it could, you know, if it wasn't for the sheriff, that would have been a really, you know, horrible scene sort of thing. But it was really, really interesting to see that sort of choice. I really did like that. Rich, what did you make of Gunner?
Well, I'm going to echo some of the sentiments you guys said. I think I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember who directed it going in. So the credits don't come up, but you just get the title. So therefore, the whole film, I was thinking, this is a really slickly made, good quality, high-end DTV film. You know, much better than some of those Randall Emmett movies and stuff. And funnily enough, Randall Emmett is actually one of the producers. It says at the end, but it's from Dimitri Logothesis, who did
before.
Yeah, he did. His last film was Jiu-Jitsu. Previously, did the Kickboxer. The two Kickboxer movies, the remake, the reboot, and the sequel, which also did a couple of the things that are in here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to what Steve said about the music choices on the action scenes, because that was just really distracting and ruined what would otherwise be a really good scene. Because I think this film has, you know, it's got a great look. You know, the cinematography is really good. It's got a good action team. I think there's a lot. I don't know if they shot a lot of in Thailand, but a lot of the crew seems to be Thai. Tanya Keller is also involved, and it's just, and for the most part, it's quite shot and edited reasonably well. But then they just they move really awkwardly from the score into these musical choices, which remind me of say Kickboxer Retaliation. They did this one shot scene which was played against the song that works pretty well. But this one, the song choices, they've gotten for this sort of, I don't know, not jazz, but sort of, I don't know, sort of a countryish. I don't know. I can't really explain what the scores is, but it's very light-hearted sort of music. And like you say, I think it's kind of a juxtaposition kind of thing. Maybe trying to do a little bit of a John Woo. You know, he's like right, we're going to play this scene, but we're going to play it against Over the Rainbow or something like that. And it just does not work. And there's a good example of why it doesn't work is because there's one part of the film they do that, they play the song, and it's really rubbish, and then a minute later they use the score for the next bit, and it works so much better. The musical choices drain all the tension and excitement out of those action scenes, for when they do that, which is unfortunately too often. So, and there's another bit. So one of the early examples of when this happens is like a fight in the forest, or the woodlands rather, and he takes on these two girls and stuff, and it's very stylized, and they're sort of, you know, teaming up and, you know, rolling over each other's backs and swinging each other around and things like that. And that's okay. I don't, you know, that's fine. But the music doesn't work. But the problem is, it does that old. It's a really obvious version of that old cliche of the gang is all around him and they're all waiting their turn. It's like there's a couple of them having a fight with him, and then it's like the other one's got a gun. He could easily just shoot him, and he waits until he gets until he kills the others. He just watches them kill them, and then he gets the knife or whatever and kills the guy with the gun before he gets a chance to use it. It's like, why are you just standing there? You're just like a lemon. So that's quite a frustrating scene. But I think the action when it's got the right score, because the score is good, I think. Yeah. When the action's on with a good score, it's all nice, decently shot. There's some, as well as the music, there's those weird digressions with the sort of adding in the fun, you know, the funny bits or whatever, like you say, the oh, I'm going to jump out of the plane with my son kind of thing, you know. So it's like, you know, is that like surely that must be a form of child abuse to force your child to skydive when they don't want to,
when they're still hungover.
Oh, that's the thing. So they do the whole thing where because he goes to get his son from his girlfriend's house, and they've got cocaine and stuff, and the parents are like really lax, you know, rich, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't care. They don't never do anything with that. They just kind of introduce that thing, and then at the end he says, oh, that girl's really nice. It's like, you should take care of her. And I'm like, but you didn't even see her. You didn't even you didn't even speak to her or anything. But so yeah, who the bad influence is in that relationship, I'm not sure, but I think it's not necessarily him, because the boy seems quite, you know, well raised for the most part. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, so Luke Hemsworth, I did really like him. We've seen him in a couple of things, but I thought this suited him quite. He's a bulkier chap. I consider him the Daniel Baldwin of the Hemsworth brothers, and he's got, you know, because I don't know if it's intentional, but the way he does his American accent and the way he looks, he reminds me a hell of a lot of Russell Crowe. So like mid-period Russell Crowe, before he got, you know, when he was bulky, but he wasn't as big as he is now. You know, it's kind of he's like
Fred Ward around the time of Remo Williams. You know, it's that sort of look.
Yeah, I don't really get Fred Ward, but because I always think of Fred Ward as being quite.
Yeah, but I think he was a bit more sort of bulky during Remo Williams. I seem to, you know, maybe I'm just.
But yeah, so I liked Hemsworth. I thought he was good. The Gunner title, and then Gunner being actually his name, it gives it kind of a little bit of an 80s throwback kind of feel to it, but it doesn't feel like an old fashioned. It feels like a.
I mean, you know, the other stupid bit is when he's in the bar and all of a sudden there's the news report showing him coming back from Afghanistan. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. And then they go, oh, is that about you? I mean, it's obviously about you.
Obviously.
It's so showing his picture and everything and his name. But yeah, the very convenient news report thing comes on TV, and then you're not. It's a bit like in On Deadly Ground. They're like, oh, you know, Travis, was it Forrest? Don't start kicking off in the bar.
Yeah,
you know, it's like don't start breaking stuff, please. And then it's like he's like, okay, I won't, and then he does, and that's quite a good scene.
This is why in this day and age, jukebox manufacturers still have an industry because of people like him.
Yeah,
you know, there must be a guy on call, sort of local jukebox repairer. You know, must be a thing. But,
another thing I was going to say is Did you notice? I think it was also in the strip club scene, but where they would show something 2 or 3 times. So he like throws guy through a glass pane, and then they show it from like 3 different angles. I don't know if that was like
they did it during the end fight as well. And, I didn't know if that was him doing a Jackie Chan kind of influence of like, oh yeah, we're going to show all these coverage angles and stuff. What was the other thing? The
subtitles. Yes, I want to get to this. Okay,
right,
so
okay.
the burned in sort of graphic subtitles. So they put these subtitles on, which is fine. I don't mind that. But the guy is speaking English, and the subtitles don't match what he's saying. So it's a bit racist.
Now,
because basically they're putting these subtitles on because he's got an accent.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Have either of you seen Killer's Game, the one with Dave Bautista? The latest one.
No.
Right. Scott Adkins is in that, and he's playing a Scottish guy. You know, one of 2 Scottish brothers, and he's putting on a really thick Scottish accent, and they make a point of putting subtitles on for his Scottish accent. You know, and I'm sort of like, yeah, okay, I can see the joke in that. You know, he's English, he's speaking English, but it's a bit of a joke. But this one, because he's Asian, it does sort of like it feels different. You know,
but his accent isn't even that strong.
I know, no, that's right. It was easily understandable.
Easily understandable, yeah.
Yeah. So I was
so much so that it's a distraction because you're like, I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm reading the subtitle, and the 2 things don't match.
Yeah. No, it was a bit weird.
It was written by Gary Scott Thompson, who created Fast and the Furious, basically. And the funny thing was, when I was watching it, there were certain things about it that was making me think, this is a bit like Fast and the Furious, although it's nothing like it. But there was something about the film that was making me think of the Fast and Furious movies.
And I think this is as well, you know, because I mentioned sort of the family dynamic within the film. Those bits I was sort of that worked. And as I said, you know, the bits with the sort of stripper and sort of the monologuing of the bad guy and stuff like that's where it felt like there was 2 different writers. You know? So yeah, because I think the director did have a hand in writing this as well, Dimitri.
Probably.
But it did feel like, as I say, you know, there is something there, but for sure, you know, there is some good stuff, and I did like the piling on of circumstance, as it were. You know, the uncovering of the undercover agent and all that sort of stuff going on. I thought that all worked quite well, and you'd easily see how he was going to get the blame for everything if it wasn't for certain sort of cooler heads sort of thing. But yeah, it did feel like there were 2 writers involved.
Another film has just come to mind, which this reminded me of, and that was Homefront, the Sylvester Stallone film that starred Jason Statham.
Right. Why do you say Sylvester?
You remember that? Because he wrote it. He was originally going to star in it, and then Statham.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I like that one actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. Apart from Statham putting on his American accent again, obviously. I think. But that was another case of there's like some drug bad guys, James Franco in that one, and he's an agent or whatever, and there was some family stuff I think going on in that. So it just popped into my head. So Morgan Freeman, sit down role and whatever, but he does get a couple of stand up scenes and stuff. But he's an old guy now. I thought there was some. There's one bit where they talk, you know, like the I think it's like DEA guy or whatever is talking about him. They're saying like he's a real psychopath and like he's a really dangerous guy. And Morgan Freeman must have been told to play it in a completely different way because although he's supposed to be the boss of this crime family or whatever, but he doesn't seem that threatening. and even if he was threatening, he does. I mean, he's not playing it. He's not even playing it Denzel in Equalizer, sort of intimidating or anything. No. He's playing it very sort of. I'm the sort of head of the family, kind of. I don't have to get my hands dirty, kind of thing. Whereas they're playing it like he's like a real psycho. Like you would expect to have a scene where he like an underling sort of doesn't serve his drink right, so he breaks his neck or something.
Exactly.
You know, nothing like that happens. But apart from that, there's this weird prison break-in, breakout sequence, which is just absurd. It's like there's not one. I don't think there's any way he would have landed safely in that prison. I'm not going to say what he does, but he basically gets into the prison very conveniently. And then the fact they just basically get out. So it's like just essentially just walk out the door or walk out the fence or whatever it is. It's like, no way. No, not a couple of, smoke grenades. That's not going to do the job for a prison escape. So I just thought that was probably the silliest prison escape sequence I've seen in a while.
Also, as well, let's just say I don't want to spoil it, but shall I say the Wild at Heart bit with Morgan Freeman?
Right.
Have you ever seen that with Willem Dafoe?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was pissing myself at that bit. I really was. I was just like, what?
It comes out of nowhere.
Okay, I haven't seen that, so I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about the end of the film?
Yes. Yeah. His last scene, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say I think most of that was a double. I mean, I thought it was really obvious.
Oh yeah.
Which was quite distracting because I actually had to go back and watch it again. Sorry, what happened there? It's like, because I thought I was watching a different character. But anyway, so overall, I would say I liked it. And it's probably one of Dimitri's better films. I think Jiu-Jitsu had too much that was wrong with it and didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this makes some mistakes, like he is prone to doing, but it shows more strengths than weaknesses. And I thought it was a good, solid actioner overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can sort of ditch the silly songs, some of the other sort of flourishes, shall we say, then I mean, this isn't the first film we're going to discuss that's got a really shitty prologue, this week. But I mean, who watched that and went, yeah, that's fine. That opening 30 seconds or whatever it actually amounts to. I guess we got to start a film somehow. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. It'd be much better to go straight to the bar.
Yeah, I wasn't dwelling on it, but you're absolutely right. It doesn't go anywhere at all. It's like it's like they wanted to add an element of mystery and stuff, but it's just like, well, why? What? We're just it. I don't know. It suggests some production problems and maybe some,
maybe it was meant to be a longer scene.
Yeah, I don't know what they had in. Yeah, it's hard to gauge, but
cool. All right then, how are we going to score it? Over to Steve.
It has got its silly bits, but I did enjoy it. I'll give it a 7.
I'm going to give it a 6. And Rich.
I'm really torn because I feel like it's a 7, but then I'm like, those musical choices and whatever, they were bugging me, and I was thinking I'll drop it down a point to 6, but I still think that it's good enough for a 7 that I wouldn't mind watching it again, even though those other bits don't work. So I'm going to say a 7, and I'm going to say it would be good for a double bill with Land of Bad if you want a Hemsworth Brothers double bill.
Yeah.
I think
not a bad choice. Yeah, as a B movie roll into Land of Bad, I think that probably work.
And the fact that one brother is like Russell Crowe and then the other one actually has Russell Crowe, and they're both military sort of themed and stuff. I think they work quite nicely together. Both good, high quality. Land of Bad is better, much better. Doesn't have the flaws that this does. So, but Gunner, give it a go. I think it's worth a shot.
I think of the DTV films we've seen recently, the DTV action stuff, I think it is one of the stronger ones for sure. So there you have it, 2 7s and a 6 for Gunner. Go check it out. Our next review is Voice of Shadows. A young woman called Emma stands to inherit a large estate as long as she abides by a strange set of rules. Her boyfriend Gabriel accompanies her and soon starts to get the impression something sinister is going on. Okay. This starts horribly, Steve. I was just totally unengaged for probably the first 20 minutes of this. It was it was like an episode of Neighbours, basically, up to a point, until they get to the house, and things perk up a bit. This does have another stupid prologue. This is the one I was mentioning when we were talking the other one, because we have Gabriel giving his confession, and it's an interesting character beat, I guess. What he actually sort of says during the confession, but then the priest just disappears. The person who he's confessing to disappears, and God knows, it's never followed up or anything. It's just like gone, right? Having said that, it does improve for me as it goes on. The woman playing Emma, I thought she had very sort of expressive eyes, and she does a really good job of sort of selling the time. She's never actually, I wouldn't say she's like fully possessed or anything like that, but you can sort of tell when she's being influenced by what's going on in the background, which I thought was, very interesting. Gabrielle, the bit that really made me perk up, I must admit, is when the weird guy with the hat keeps turning up and sort of going on about stuff, and then all of a sudden he pulls a knife at one point, and I was like, this is interesting. This isn't where I was expecting things to go. And then it's sort of like, unfortunately, it sort of fell back into sort of convention. But for a moment there, I thought this could be, it's got potential. But anyway, what did you make of it?
I'll be honest, I couldn't get into this at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of them scenarios that we've seen so many times before recently. Someone inherits a haunted house or whatever out of nowhere, and moves to a minute. This style of
break it up there, mate. You want to try
where they move to a new house or they get given a new house or it's haunted or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was boring. Nothing much really happened. Like you said, the bit where the knife gets pulled out, and that's about it. It doesn't really kick off till the last 10, 15 minutes, really. And even though this Emma is supposedly, slightly possessed or whatever, she just comes across as an absolute bitch. And you know what I mean? It's just Gabrielle's just talking to her, normally she's just like, and it just grated. I didn't find any character really sympathetic. Like you say, even at the beginning, when Gabrielle's doing his confession, that he ain't the nicest of people. And there's no one to really side with as such. And just not what's happened. And you can tell it was done on the cheap. I mean, obviously, it was done very cheaply, but it just didn't grab me. I was just bored all the way through.
It is, it is a low budget production for sure. I think some of its so-called scares could have been given a lot more oomph. They went for sort of longer shots. Like there's a shot where sort of your character goes out of frame, and we're stuck looking at this rocking chair for like a good minute of screen time. And then it starts rocking. I'm thinking, why? You don't need to sort of do this. Another thing, doors closing on their own are done in camera, in one shot, and it takes ages for them to happen. Things like that. And also when stuff does happen, when things do get a bit supernatural, they have the blankest look on their faces. Even Gabrielle is just like, what? Which is a shame. There's a hint at this sort of supernatural conspiracy thing, but the way when it's revealed, you're like, oh my god, and then he confronts somebody who goes, oh, I know a secret about you. It's that sort of thing. It's really, the reactions are all off, basically. Is the way I sort of saw it. But I did like that middle section, just that that a good 5 minutes where somebody tries, does something, gets the their ass handed to them. But it needed to build on that because everyone just goes, "Oh, where's Charlie?" And they go, it's that sort of thing, and it's never mentioned again. I was expecting it to sort of escalate from that point, and it never does, unfortunately. So, on that note, how are you going to score it, Steve?
I give it a 5.
Yeah, I join you on a 5. I think it's a high 5. It's not quite a 6, but it does show promise. This is directed by a guy called Nicholas Bain. I don't think we've covered any of his stuff before.
No, I don't
I'm
think
just
so.
having a quick look through his. No, I think this is his first feature as a director. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so he's done a few shorts before, but this is his first feature. Shows promise for sure. And if you can get past the first 15 minutes or so, then I think there is enough to actually sort of of interest, but it's never really sort of going to blow your socks off or anything like that.
Yeah.
So 2 5s for Voice of Shadows. Go check it out. Our next film is Devil's Night. A squad of mercenaries called the Wolf Blades are hired by the King of Aroka to kill a demonic monster which has been attacking villages on the edges of the kingdom. Okay, so this is directed by a guy called Adam Worth, and produced by a guy called Sonny Mahal. Now, when I started watching this, I'm thinking, Sonny Mahal, that name rings a bell. And then I realized that this pair, producer and director, also made the film The Bermuda Triangle, which we covered last year, I believe. Now, you may remember this one. Bermuda Island, sorry, yes, Bermuda Island. You may remember that this film, it had so many different plot ideas, from escorting a drug lord to prison on an airplane, which then crashes in the Bermuda Triangle, which is full of cannibalistic monsters and also the devil. And, it wasn't a good film by any means, but it was incredibly entertaining, nevertheless. And that's, I not tweeted, but skeeted, because we're on Blue Sky now, about this. So when I was about to watch it, I said, based on Bermuda Island, whatever this is, it's not going to be dull, and it really isn't. We've got in small roles, we've got Kevin Sorbo and Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts' accent in this is, it is worth the admission alone, just to hear him try to do an English accent, or it is the most pantomime thing you're ever going to hear. It is brilliant. Kevin Sorbo is actually quite good in this, in the scenes that he gets. I thought he was okay. The film is at its best when there's monsters on screen, for sure. I think the two, the monster suits are actually not too bad, and there's some decent sort of fights and stuff like that. The acting is, the actors have a mixture of accents. Not all of them, English isn't all of their sort of first languages. And it veers and hauls in different directions here and there. But overall, I thought they packed in a lot and got some decent production values out of this. What did you make of this one, Steve?
It's terrible. I'm sorry. I know what you mean.
I never said it was a good film.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean by it's entertaining, because it's laughable. I was just pissing myself all the way through. It's right. Kevin Sorbo, yeah, all right. He's half decent. The rest of them, terrible. All of them. There's no other decent performance in there. The monsters, I'll give them credit for trying to do it all in camera. But it is basically just a guy in a suit, which
it is. It's two suits. Yeah.
But nowadays, do we kind of expect more even from some low budget like this? I mean, it might have helped if they tried to keep it off screen for a bit, build up the monster, but no, it's there straight away.
That first time when you first see it, they do try that, and it it looks horrible. I thought, oh god, this is what it's gonna be like. And but they seem to have ditched that idea very quickly. And went, no, get the suit on screen. Yeah.
But there's no money involved in it.
No.
Nothing at all. And to be fair on that, the actual not fighting effects, but like the horror effects are not bad. They're quite, they're quite decent. But the rest of it, it's awful. I mean, is it Angie Everhart who plays like the French?
Yeah. The French daughter of the British guy. Yeah, that's
yeah. What is that accent? Because I wouldn't mind. She's American anyway. She's not French. Why do it?
Why use a French accent? Yeah, were they all given different scripts? It's different directions written on the scripts.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah. Because Kevin Sorbo makes no attempt to hide his American accent at all.
No. But then, like you say, you got Eric Roberts for like one scene he's in.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
I think they must have something on him. I don't know. They've got some dodgy pictures way back and something for that.
Look, the guy is well known for rocking up to a production, doing a day's work, and then fucking off. I mean, we if you look at his IMDb, he's done hundreds of these films.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing they've got him into a costume. To be honest, because a lot of these ones, you get the impression that he's just wandered on camera in whatever he turned up to set in. So there is that. Yeah, I mean the script itself isn't bad. It's going for this sort of a bit like Princess Bride kind of slightly winking at the audience kind of thing. It has this sort of wraparound narrative.
Again, the wraparound.
Yeah.
That made no bloody sense neither. He just
turns hilarious. I mean, the end. The conclusion of that is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what was the point of him? From a film point of view, from a story point of view, what was the point of going through all of this if none of them are going to survive? At the it's crazy, it really is. But yeah, I could get with it. I must admit, you have to be in that Bermuda Island frame of mind.
Yeah, but I was never in that frame of mind.
You're never in that frame of mind. Terrible. I've seen lesser production values on films which are attempting, fantasy films, fantasy stories like this.
Well, yeah, I mean that. It's like an early 80s fantasy that's not improved in any way whatsoever. You know what I mean? In the last 40 years, I don't know. It's just, yeah.
It's like so you put it, equivalating it to something like Hawk the Slayer, then.
Yeah, or Beastmaster, something like that.
Oh no! Don't denigrate Beastmaster to this level.
No,
Beastmaster.
No, all right, Beastmaster 2 then.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Oh dear. Yeah, so I can see the entertainment value of this. This is definitely, watch with friends over beers, bit of pizza, and just take the piss out of it. But you'll enjoy it at the same time, I think. Because the fights and everything are actually quite well done. As I said, the monster effects are good. The gore effects are quite good. It's just the quality of the acting, I think, that's really hurting it. And unfortunately, it's a low budget independent film. You're not going to get, if you're going to spend money on people like Kevin Sorbo and Eric Roberts, then that's where your money's going, basically. As far as your acting is going. But I mean, I'm sure there's a few people in there that I did recognize from other productions like this. So yeah, I had a good time with it overall. How are you going to score it?
Great.
Oh dear. I'm giving it a 6. So there you go. There you go. Yeah. So I'm equivalating this to the other 2 films that we've reviewed today. No, actually, so this is better than Voice of Shadows for me, and on the same level as Gunner for entertainment value. So there we have it. A 3 and a 6 for Devil's Night. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Out of Body. A woman who can astral project seeks intimacy on a first date, but the night spirals when a suffocating entity, the Lurker, appears. I'm glad that sort of told us what was going on, because it's not exactly clear sometimes exactly what's going on. I wasn't sure whether she's the Lurker or what was quite going on there, but never mind. Rich, over to you first. What can you tell us about Out of Body?
It's a new horror, horror. I would say horror film from director Joseph Lee, who we've covered his work before, but he's most well known for his action and stunt work.
Right.
He did a film, a short we covered previously called Twisting Tiger, but he's got a lot of other stuff in his his filmography. So although I think he's probably done horror before, I think for me, having only seen the action stuff, because he's also a choreographer and stuff, and works on Shang-Chi and all that sort of stuff. I'm only really familiar with his action side, so this was quite an interesting contrast to that. It's still very stylistic, but there's no action elements whatsoever here. Not even in like a Prom Car 91 kind of way where they just kind of throw it in out of nowhere. So this is a serious, straight horror film. 13 minutes long. I haven't seen It Follows, but it made me think of the concept of It Follows. If you from what I've heard of it, it's it's a film about
equivalating sex and death, but the supernatural.
Yeah, no. But I thought there was some interesting dynamics going on, because it's the guy and the girl in the car, and you're worried about him. Is he going to turn out to be quite threatening? Initially, he seems a bit more sympathetic, let's say, and he's not necessarily the bad guy. And then she's kind of encouraging. She seems cautious at first, but then she's quite encouraging. I think there's a battle going on with her, and that's where the Lurker comes in. It's like, is it the Lurker sort of taking over her, and then she's becoming, and then it's the her real self is kind of pushing that back, and then saying, actually, I don't want to proceed, and that's where things sort of basically the dynamics of what's happening keep shifting, and you're not quite sure who's going to be the aggressor necessarily in the situation, which I think it's very brilliantly shot. It's it's just quite an isolated location. It's a van in the middle of a parking lot, and there's the threatening Lurker outside. We've seen these kind of concepts before. Sort of like one or two people in jeopardy, and there's a monster or whatever. I thought it was very well done. The visual effects are very good. I did like it. What did you guys think of it?
Steve, over to you.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. Like you say, it's like a battle of wills between all three characters. The characters and the Lurker. But yeah, it's well shot. It's well produced. The effects are pretty, decent. It's interesting. Like you say, you've got that balance of, he seems all right, and then he's getting a bit shirty with her, and she's going that way, but it does work well. I enjoyed it. It was really good, this one.
I did. As I said, I did find it a little bit confusing as to who the Lurker was, or what, that sort of thing a little bit. But one thing it does really well, and going back to our review of Gunner earlier, and I mentioned about that deputy. The thing about the boyfriend here, the way he comes across at the beginning, especially, he's very carefully choosing what he says to her. He's very carefully. It's like he's playing a verbal video game, almost. You know, it's like, what is the route I need to take to get into her pants?
Yeah.
You know, to seem unthreatening and all this sort of stuff. And he's saying things like, "Oh well, I'm glad that you find me unthreatening, or someone you can open up to," and all this sort of stuff. You know, he's saying all the right things, at least to begin with, and then later on he's like, "I'm doing this for, you know, this is for your own good," kind of thing. You know, it's like all you need is for me to screw you to get over your hang-ups about sex, kind of thing, and I'm going to force myself, you know, force you to accept that. And that's when she's sort of like, lets go of, you know, as you say, lets her defenses down, lets the lurker in. So yeah, it is a really good sort of short on, you know, that sort of shall we say, sort of sexual politics. And I thought that worked really well. And you know, the design of it, the location, the way it's shot, you know, the sort of rain swept parking lot, you know, the single overhead sort of street light, that sort of thing, I thought worked really well. Yeah, very, very evocative sort of atmosphere out of this one. Yeah, very good indeed.
According to the IMDb, Mike, the lurker is a malevolent vagrant spirit.
Interesting.
So I don't know if somebody's just written that or whether that's an official synopsis, but that doesn't come across in the film. There's nothing to indicate.
It seemed like
because yeah, spirit is.
It seemed like it's got her face at certain points, you know, even though it's sort of covered in goo and stuff like that. You know, when she's looking at it, it seems to be taking on her face, as it were. Anyway,
yeah, I think it's trying to take possession. It's like a possession kind of story, but it's how much is she letting it? How much is she? Is it attacking her, or is she allowing it to come through because of these weaknesses and that she's experiencing this conflict that she's got?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Yeah.
Now, this film has a caveat at the beginning. It says, "Warning: this film contains flashing lights, and references to sexual misconduct." And I'm watching it thinking, I don't see any misconduct here, just conduct. And then we get to the point where he's like putting on the condom. It's like, okay, yeah, that's definitely. I'd go further than calling it misconduct, actually. But there you go. But all's well that ends well, for sure. We don't score the shorts. We don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. And we will put a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Mumbai Saga. Set over a couple of decades, this chronicles the rise and fall of Amartya Naik, who rose to become the criminal overlord of Mumbai until a dogged policeman called Savarkar sets his sights on destroying him. I'm unfamiliar with the work of Sanjay Gupta. I think this is the first film of his that I've seen, although I'm interested to sort of see a few more based on this. This was very good indeed. It feels a bit like Scarface, but without the drugs. Is the way it sort of comes across to me. It starts off with a couple of awesome sort of fight scenes, but then we don't tend to get any after that. You know, it gets more into sort of the criminal politics and things like that. You know, different people vying for position and stuff. But even so, I thought this, you know, has a cracking start. There were when his brother gets pushed out the window onto the train tracks, so he ends up chopping some guy's hand off and, you know, kicking the absolute shit out of this gang, which lands them in prison, which leads to another big fight scene, which was also very good. And then it sort of kind of settles down after that for a long time, but still. This was very enjoyable. What did you make of it, Steve?
Yeah, it was. It was enjoyable. I just thought it was a little bit long for me. I just think could have done a bit of tightening, but it is kind of weird because, like you say, it starts off with these two big fights that are like, you know, it's like he's a comic book hero. You know, he's throwing them about and, you know, kicking ass and chewing bubble gum and all this kind of shit, and then he just kind of settles down into like a more, realistic, street level kind of crime caper, gangster caper in a way, which I thought was a bit weird. And then obviously you've got the big sing and dance set piece, which
we get a couple, don't we? Yeah, we get a couple. Yeah.
I mean, the first one I can kind of get because it's like, big religious festival, celebrating Ganesh and all that kind of stuff. That I kind of get. The second one, the nightclub.
That is so funny. Yeah. It's like he walked into the middle of a, some rapper's video, music video.
Yeah, it's like a Puff Daddy music video from the 90s or something. Yeah. It's just weird. And I know that's kind of Bollywood tradition, and I know, I was kind of expecting it. And yeah, it always throws me off. It really does. It always takes me out. There's no need for it. But I know that's what they do. But yeah, I thought the performance was great. The action's great.
Yeah.
Especially, like I say, the first two fight scenes and at the end as well on the runway. I thought that was really good, really well done.
So yeah, I mean, this stars John Abraham, who we have come across before in other films. Like I've seen him in Rocky Handsome, which is the Indian version of The Man from Nowhere, which is very good. But both versions very good. Also in Pataan, I believe it was. He is very good. He ridiculously handsome looking.
Oh god, yeah. Guy. He's got the charisma. Without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to interject here. I haven't seen the film, but yeah, John Abraham's really good. He's one of those guys who never seems to age. He's been around for ages, and he still looks amazing. I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah, this film is spread over like 20 years or so, I think, because his younger brother, he sends him off to boarding school, and then, but by the end of the film, he's almost sort of running the empire with him, kind of thing, So it sort of covers a lot of period of time. But yeah, he's brilliant. He's a very physical actor. He really pulls it off. And then we got, it takes a long time for him to be introduced, but we've got this police officer called Saga, who is just an absolute monster. He's more of a hitman than a police officer. He's a hitman wearing a police officer's uniform, basically. There's no sort of due process. When he's hunting down Amartya's colleagues, he's just like basically barging in and just shooting them dead usually shooting them in the back as well. So he's definitely not being portrayed as the good guy in this, even though Amartya is sort of like the ostensibly being the criminal kind of thing, although he doesn't really sort of start off as criminal, but that's how he ends up, I guess. Although you never really see him doing anything criminal as such. It's very much a sort of folk hero kind of character, I think. Yeah. Especially at the end when you get like this little epilogue come up on the screen, which sort of says what really happened. Yeah, and it's like, okay, so this is all based on the real character and things. It does sort of speak a lot about the corruption in India, in places like Mumbai and things as well. You got this character called is it Baba, who
Badu.
It's the guy who's basically just running everything in the background,
Yeah. I think it's Badu.
Yeah, and then the other sort of the big other gang leader called Gaetond. It's just sort of crazy. As I've mentioned loads of times before, I always like it when bad guys suddenly realise they're bitten off more than they can chew, and that's what you get in that. Those two fight scenes in particular, I thought sort of great little moments. This guy's sort of like getting in his face, sort of saying how really proud of the fact that he beat up a 12-year-old kid basically and put him in hospital, and he goes, "Well, you shouldn't have mouthed off at me," kind of thing. And he chops his hand off. That was brilliant. Yeah, so this is very enjoyable. It's a bit different to the sort of kind of Bollywood films that I'm used to. I think it does sort of more. It's a bit more thoughtful at times as far as as I said, sort of the politics and things like that going on. But it is enjoyable. It did sort of fly past. The only sort of thing I didn't like, as you probably guess, is that we do get in media res. You get this scene at the beginning, which we didn't need at all. All it did is, it starts off with the assassination of a particular character. And then when that character's introduced, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy that's going to get murdered soon.
Yeah.
That's literally what that scene did for me. It's like, oh yeah, he's going to die soon. And it happened earlier than I thought it was going to happen as well. I thought, oh, maybe that's going to be towards it. No, it's about the midpoint of the film. It is a turning point for the film, but even so, it happened quite early. But there you go. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. I do want to check out some more of Sanjay Gupta's films.
If I can just interject there and recommend one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so he's directed a fair few rip-off films, basically.
Okay.
So, like, he's done ones based on Desperate Measures, and there was a South Korean film called 7 Days. But another South Korean one, which is the one I want to recommend, is it's called Zinda, and it was his remake of Old Boy, which also had John Abraham. But they completely changed the ending, because if you remember what the ending of Old Boy is, it's not very palatable necessarily for the Indian community. So the ending is completely different in terms of what the motivations and stuff were. But it's well worth checking out. I actually got a chance to see that one at the cinema, and it's got it does do the whole, it's got the hammer, fight and everything all sort of in there. It's well worth a look if you get a chance. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else of his? Oh, he did a Reservoir Dogs knockoff called Kant, Kaante. I think I saw that one, and that was okay. But Zinda is the one I'd say give it a look.
Zinda. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Okay, this is available on Amazon Prime at the moment. Not too many ad breaks. I think there was one at the beginning, and then they kind of stopped the film for a second, saying, "Oh, there's no more ad breaks," for some reason, and then just carried on, which is very, very bizarre. But it looks great. Absolutely worth checking out. Thoroughly recommend it. So that is the end of this week's show. So thank you for listening. Thank you to Steve and Rich for covering these films. Didn't mind them too much this week. But yeah, Gunner definitely had promise. And Devil's Night, it did split opinions, but definitely worth checking out. Thank you for listening. No, I'll do that bit again. Don't forget to check us out on Blue Sky and Twitter and Facebook at the DTV Digest, and also the Short Shots, where you'll find us curating a whole library of excellent shorts. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.